First things first, you can relax. Driving EVs for the first time may be a bit different, but rest assured you'll soon adapt. In fact, for the most part, it will feel like you're driving a normal automatic vehicle. But things like charging and regenerative braking will feel different. But don't worry, it takes time for everyone to get used to it. So our advice is to be reassured by what you find normal and be patient yet inquisitive with what you find new. Be part of the EV community. Some of the best advice about owning and driving an EV comes from those who've been driving them already. Here are a few ideas to consider. Seek out via social media or professional networks great tips and further advice to make your experience enjoyable. Look at community charging, especially if you can't charge at home. Does a neighbour have a charging point that you could use? Obviously, you'd expect to compensate them for the cost of electricity. Check for nearby hosts at CoCharger or Just Park. And if you're travelling a long distance or having a meeting somewhere new, rather than just use the standard car parks, is there a car park where you could park and charge at the same time? Beware of charging at shopping centres and food outlets, etc., where there may be a time limit. Even if the charging is free, you may have a maximum stay of 30 to 90 minutes, and it may only be a 3.6 kilowatt outlet, which will only add a few miles. Be prepared. As with all things, proper preparation is essential. So before setting off, plan your journey. As it's not just a question of how far you'll go in your EV, it's also how you get there. The more time you spend on high-speed routes such as motorways and dual carriageways, the greater amount of energy you'll need, and the quicker your predicted range will tumble. So plan your route carefully so you can get more miles or kilometers for your kilowatt. Most onboard sat-nav computers will help you plot an efficient route and will also indicate charging points along your chosen route. And whilst the most economical route may take a little longer, the reduced energy consumption might mean that you'll go further on a charge and not have to stop off for an unplanned top-up. In addition to the onboard navigation, use online sites and mobile apps such as ZapMap or Waze to help you plan your journey, with information on charging networks, journey times, and alternative routes. Mass and weight is the enemy of efficiency, so declutter to make sure that your EV is as light as possible. Always remove roof racks and bike holders when not in use to make your vehicle as aerodynamic as possible. And a clean vehicle will genuinely sigh through the air with less drag than a dirty one, so frequent washing and waxing will always pay off. Don't ignore the charging cables. Keep them clean and in good working order. Put in some disposable gloves and plastic bags to place a dirty or wet cable into rather than on the boot floor. And regularly check your home charger and cables. If there's any damage, don't use them. And do not place cables in walkways or across public pathways. Finally, regularly check the tyre pressures, as underinflated rubber increases rolling resistance and takes a toll on the range. Be nice when ICED. Drivers of ICE, internal combustion engines, sometimes park in spots designated for clean air vehicles or EV charging. It's common enough that there's actually a term for it, getting iced. We know that this can be stressful, but please don't retaliate with a mean message that gives EV drivers a bad name. Avoid confronting drivers, but if you feel safe to do so, perhaps leave a friendly note, educating ICE drivers and encouraging them not to take an EV spot again. Remember, charging spots are for charging, not parking. That applies to EVs as well. Please don't use a charging spot as your personal parking spot and park there without plugging in. That's as frustrating as being iced. Get a charge and move on.